Welcome to the January INCOSE WMA Chapter meeting. I'm Gary Thomas. I'm the outgoing chapter president. And on the net, we have Dr. Sue, our past president. We have Dr. Lawanda Studevant, our incoming chapter president. And we have Miss Renee Steinwein, if I'm saying it correctly, from our America sector, and Mr. Ralf Hartmann from our INCOSE president from INCOSE headquarters. There are other folks on the net as well. One second. And I appreciate your guys' time. In the chat session, we have just a little icebreaker just to make sure that you guys are that everything is working correctly, and it's also our way to kind of gauge who's in the meeting as well. Okay, next slide. All right, we're recording. If you're new to a WMA chapter meeting, just announce that in the chat so we can circle back and see if we can get our some thank yous and things like that, get to know you more better, a little bit better. All right, next slide. All right, when the guest speaker Ralph is talking, we'll try to keep our questions into the chat session, and then we will circle back and make sure that your questions are answered at the end of his brief. Please mute your phone and your microphone, and I will do that myself. Cell phones. Yep, all muted. Okay. In the chat, please, please use the chat. I mean, it does. Maybe not everything will be answered real time, but we will do our best to do that. We want to make sure that that different lines of communication, some networking happens, and things like that. So please feel free to use the chat, and we have different chapter officers that will be monitoring the chat. Next slide. All right, so everybody this week has probably told you a Happy New Year a million times, and I want to do the same thing. So Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. This is going to be an outstanding year for our chapter. We have a powerhouse of a team that's coming in, and we'll hear more about them in a little bit. Throughout the meeting, I will give a little bit of my presentation or my outgoing message, and then Dr. Studevant will have a few words herself as she comes into the role, and then of course we're going to hear tonight from our INCOSE president, Mr. Ralf Hartmann. Next slide. All right, one thing that we're really proud of, and we're trying to build this super strong relationship with our student chapters. Not only the department chairs, but we have faculty advisors that are sponsoring the student chapter meetings, and then we want to get to know our student leaders. And so the next three slides talk about who those people are from a point of contact perspective. And as last year, and I'll go over this a little bit later in the brief, but last year we spent a lot of time trying to get to know our student chapters, and I know we're going to build upon those relationships in 2025 and 2026. Next slide. So that was George Mason, and here's Virginia Tech. Next slide. And then our student chapter over at George Washington University. Next slide. Well, actually, I remember seeing Dr. Dano on. Can you go back one slide? Dr. Dano, Eric Dano is our faculty advisor over at GW. Dr. Dano, I want to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And is there anything you'd like to say about the GW chapter before we move on?
Well, two things. One, the students gave out I gave the Christmas or the holiday gifts to them that was passed along at the INCOSE holiday party, and they all expressed their great, thank you for that. They're really surprised and pleasantly impressed with the mugs and candles and especially the chocolates. And the
Outstanding.
second thing too is I do have the outstanding action that once we get the Siemens software for the model-based engineering environment set up, which should be this month, we're going to go ahead and have the invite of the tour over to our facilities. So I
Oh,
have,
okay. So just a little bit about that. One of the it's in my outgoing message, but I'll touch on it just a little bit. We were able to get all three of our student presidents to meet up down at Virginia Tech to take a tour, to learn about the system engineering department and take a tour of the labs down at Virginia Tech. And what I saw, uh, when I saw the student chapter presidents talking, exchanging phone numbers, and then saying, "Hey, we would love to see the new engineering building that GW has." The student chapter president over at GW says, "Well, hey, well, let me work that out with Professor Eric Dano, and we'll get that going." So that's what he's referring to, is these students are now like going to take tours of each other's schools, take a look at the different labs, and only goodness can come from that, because now the different students are getting to know each other, and who knows, maybe one day they're going to be coworkers, and they're going to say, "You remember, so we're facilitating that the friendships and the lifelong relationships that happen in engineering. So we're really proud of it. Thank you, Eric Gano, for willing to take and do that tour for us.
no, my pleasure.
Okay. I didn't check to see who else was online. Is anybody from George Mason online, or Virginia Tech?
Hello, yes, I'm Nicholas Trezek from Virginia Tech.
Oh,
Hi
great.
there, this is Shifa.
Hey, Shiva, how you doing? So, Shiva, can you
Doing
go to the
good. How are you?
I'm really I'm like really at awe with this student leader. Can you go to the Virginia Tech slide? Right. So Shifa is the student chapter president down at Virginia Tech, and she's a
Yeah,
PhD candidate. And she basically her and Professor Taylor Topku kind of walked us through their program and took a tour around the different labs. Thank you, Shifa, for joining us tonight.
sure, it's a
Is there
pleasure.
is there
It's nice
anything
to
you
meet
want to
you
say?
all.
Is there anything you want to say? The president of INCOSE is on this call. Is there anything you want to
I
say
would
about the
say
Virginia Tech,
uh,
chapter?
yeah, sure. So I and my fellow Virginia Tech officers really enjoyed the visit from George Mason University and George Washington University. And we are still in touch, and we would love to see more opportunities like that in the future. As you said, it was an awesome opportunity for us.
Thank you, Shiva. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
From George
thanks.
Mason, is there anybody? Thank you, Shiva. Appreciate your time. Is there anybody from George Mason on that would like to talk about the program a little bit?
Well, I'm emerita from George Mason. I'm Kathy
Yeah.
Lasky. I retired from George Mason a couple of years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see any current George Mason people here, but we do have recently retired Art Peister online.
Okay. We have Dr. Lasky is a chapter officer. She just retired from George Mason, and she's been the secretary and a chapter officer for 14 years in the WMA chapter. And anytime we need to go know something about George Mason, we go to her. So it may be tough for the faculty advisor, Professor what's it, Mesa?
Amisa.
So Amisa. Because we're so used to going to Dr. Lasky. Okay. With that said, and I'm a George Mason alumni, but from the electrical engineering department, and I can tell you, I mean that's just a fantastic school. I'm so glad that our student chapters are getting to know each other, and that just they're setting up themselves up for lifelong relationships, and I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go down past the student chapters. Right, as we say in every chapter meeting, this is a organization of volunteers. And we know that you have day jobs and family members and, demands of just being an engineer or a practitioner of system engineering. So we really value your time. These are areas, if you do have time, these are areas that we could use help in. We're always looking for folks to staff our communications committee. We have a vacancy right now in our ambassadors program, and that's a key position where we're trying to build ties with industry, our cab community, our schools, and really be the glue that brings these different stakeholders together. Okay, every organization needs volunteers, and this is we're no exception. Dr. Sue, is there anything you'd want to say about the volunteer piece?
And thank you so very much. We're an organization of volunteers. Everything that we do is done by volunteers. So when you get a chance, think about joining up and signing up for one of the opportunities. You don't have to spend every day doing it. You just need to spend a couple of hours a week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sue. Okay, next slide. All right, here we're just a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think this is good. This will give our guest speaker more time and also maybe for more questions and answers on the back end. But we'd like to move forward. If there's no objections, I'd like to move forward with the induction and oath-taking ceremony that brings in the 2025 chapter officers. Okay, next slide. Okay, these are our new chapter officers. Dr. Studevant is going to take the role of president. Dr. Sean Na is going to be the president-elect / vice president. I'm going to move to the past president role, supplanting Dr. Sue. Our treasurer will remain the same, Brian Massa. Our secretary will be Barbara Staples. She's going to take Dr. Lasky's role as the secretary. Our communications chair is going to be Paul DeMarco. He's going to take over for Michael O'Connell. Ms. Ruchira Puri, she's going to remain as the program chair. Bill Scheibel he's going to remain as the director at large. Dr. Hung Soo, he will go from past president to director at large. Kyle Miller will remain as the tutorial chair. Lisa Winchester will remain as the membership chair. Miss Kathleen Flynn, a brand new CSEP, by the way, she will be the event. She will remain the event coordinator, and Nalini Mupala will remain the editor, our quarterly newsletter and editor. With that, I think what's the next slide? Okay, so I'm gonna ask the new chapter officers to turn on their camera. I don't know if we can see them. If there's a way to, I think in the upper corner of your browser, in the window, there's a way to change the view. If you'd like to see the folks, I guess. Let me see if they're camera. Yeah, we want the new chapter officers to turn on the camera if they can. All right. Okay, here we go. As a newly elected board of directors for the Washington Metro Area Chapter for INCOSE, you are responsible for managing the affairs of this organization and providing for the day-to-day operations and management of the chapter. Do you pledge yourselves to faithfully discharge these responsibilities in accordance with the chapter constitution and bylaws? As board members of the Washington Metropolitan Area Chapter of INCOSE, if so, then answer, I will.
I will.
I will.
I will.
I will.
Outstanding. Do you pledge yourselves to fulfill this responsibility and obligations to your elected office of the Washington Metropolitan Area Chapter of INCOSE, to promote the interests of the chapter so as to assist in its development and health, and to serve as a member of the council's board of directors? If so, then answer, I will.
I will.
I will.
I will.
I will.
I
Board
will.
members, I am happy to install each of you into the office to which you have been elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Hey guys, that's I'm so proud. You have no idea how proud I am. This is outstanding work. Thank you for your time. Let me go to the next slide. All right. We had mentioned their names earlier. The student faculty advisors will remain the same. At GW, at George Washington University, we have Professor Eric Dano. At Virginia Tech, the faculty advisors going to remain Professor Talon Topku. Maybe I think we pronounce his name Topchu, but he hasn't corrected me yet. And at George Mason, Professor Matthew Amissa. Is there anybody else? I guess at this point, my time is done. And Dr. Studevant, this is your show now.
Oh, Gary.
Okay.
So, well, first and foremost, you have done a phenomenal job, Gary, this year. You have been quite busy and on fire for the WMA chapter. I cannot salute you enough for all that you've done. I did see two hands. So let me pause for a moment. I saw Bill's hand and Barbara's.
I was just trying to clap, so forget that. Move on. Thank you.
Okay.
Same for me. So
I
apologies.
can show you how to do it, Bill. It's under React.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee. I'll take a note on that one.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So again, as I was just about to say, Gary has been a phenomenal president. He has really been out there beating the bushes up and down 95. He and I also went to the Chesapeake chapter holiday event with our significant others, and it was just really an awesome time to share. Gary, you're not going to be far. You know, I know your number, and we will definitely be in contact, and look forward to having your support as we move forward into 2025. I won't belabor this slide. We have heard from Gary all of the new members that are coming on board, those that are remaining. And so I look forward to working with each and every one of you in the coming year and to continue what Gary has started, and Dr. Sue and others before. There is one vacant chair position that we would really like to get, because it is indeed an important role, as you know, all of them are, but being an ambassador for this organization is something that we do not want to have vacant for long. So I just wanted to share that information for anyone that may be interested. We have some exciting things to share with regards to the SEP certifications in WMA. We've had 60 new members in 2024 that earned their SEP certifications, 44 for the ASEP, 14 for the CSEP, and 2 for the ESEP. And so as we look at those, and if any of you all are online, feel free to come off mute. We do want to applaud and recognize each of you that have taken the time to earn this important certification. I won't call 44 names before you, but just wanted to let you see the names of those that have earned these certifications. This is the list, the 14 new CSEP engineers that have made their certifications. And then also there are 2 ESEP. And so I just want to take a moment to applaud all of you all that have, all 60 of you, and hope that this inspires others that are on the call to also consider getting one of these certifications. And so just a little bit more about the certifications and how we are faring here on the left in terms of WMA. We have 124 ASEP, 248 CSEP, 49 ESEP, a total of 421 certified individuals here in the WMA chapter. And then, of course, INCOSE International, there are 4,648 total as of January. So just wanted to pass this information along to you as well. WMA is not just for DC, Maryland, Virginia. We also have a few other territories, other areas that are also included, but we have, it looks like 836 members in our chapter. So we're hoping to get a little closer to some of the members. Hopefully you all will come out and participate in the coming year to one of our many events. We have a phenomenal events coordinator, Kathleen Flynn, who always has something new and different, but definitely engineering related for us to do and take part in. And then here's some more information with regards to the demographics of our chapter. We have 52 cabs, there are 24 defense companies, 5 FFRDCs, 6 different government federal agencies, 19 DoD, and then 19 universities. And so we have a wide variety of members in terms of background. And so just hopefully you'll see that you can come out and mix and mingle and learn some things from your fellow members, and perhaps even explore other opportunities. So coming up, we also develop and distribute a newsletter 4 times throughout the year. Our next issue, and we're always, our editor Nalini is always looking for contributors with articles, either an article that you would like to share about your engineering experience and trajectory, but also if you've seen something that you think might be of interest to others in this chapter, feel free to share that information with our newsletter. And so his email is here at the bottom. You can send it to newsletter@incosewma.org or his personal email, either one. And we can get that information shared. We have also been sharing with the international INCOSE newsletter as well. So it's not just information shared amongst us here at WMA, but also worldwide. Our upcoming meetings, of course, we have a meeting this evening. We do have a couple of board members that are planning to attend the international workshop in Seville, Spain in February. And so when they return, what we'd like to do here is to have them to share and bring back what they have learned and experienced while they were attending the conference. We will also have members that will participate virtually as well with that workshop that's happening in Spain in February. And then we also have lined up in March a briefing from UVA President Professor Matthew Burkett. And so please mark your calendars accordingly. Our tutorials chair, Kyle, are you on? I can't tell exactly who is online. If you wanted to share about what your plans are for tutorials. If not, as you can see, there are at least 3 different topics that we are proposing for our upcoming tutorials for 2025. And so if you know of a topic that you'd like to add, or if you would like to present on this topic, feel free to reach out to Kyle via programs at INCOSE WMA.org. His email address is here. And we will get you on the calendar to present a tutorial to our chapter. Our events coordinator, Kathleen Flynn, are you on the line?
Good evening. Hi, Dr. Studevant.
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, and our one of our new CSEP
yes.
earners
Thank
here.
you.
Congratulations again.
Thanks. Yeah, there's been a lot of great opportunities to prepare for CSEP through INCOSE WMA. So thanks to everyone for your support and guidance for that. So this slide is a overview of our successful holiday party, where we had a year-end celebration in mid-December last month. And we celebrated and thanked everyone who made 2024 a successful year for INCOSE WMA, from our guest speakers, our great monthly meetings, our tutorial, and some of our in-person events, tours. It was a great year, and it was a wonderful way to celebrate everything and everyone who made last year a success. Looking forward to this year. On the next slide, our tentative plan for our first quarterly membership event most likely will be in early March, and there are going to be more details forthcoming, so check your email for that. Our event is going to be focused on natural systems, specifically the Potomac River, and I am really looking forward to having a set of talks and in-person opportunity to gather and learn about a natural resource that's right in our backyard. So we're just working out the logistics and details about that, so stay tuned. And we're also planning to have a happy hour, most likely in February. More information about that to come as well. But if anyone is interested in helping to plan or organize any of our in-person events, please reach out to me at events@incosewma.org. And looking forward to seeing all of you at an in-person event sometime this year. Thanks. Back to you, Dr. Studevant.
Thank you. Thank you. And as I mentioned before, Kathleen does a phenomenal job. The events are always wonderful. So do look out and hope to see you all joining in one of these events, our upcoming events. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Renee, who will introduce our speaker of the hour.
Okay, thank you, Luanda, and thank you, Gary, and all of you for serving as INCOSE volunteers. And I just want to put in a reminder that any work you do for INCOSE, you can count as PDUs. So all of you CSEPs who just got certified, keep that in mind. Even attending these meetings count as PDUs as well. So sorry, my friend Courtney Wright made me say that. So anyways, congratulations. So I took a few notes because I wanted you guys to kind of understand the role that Ralph plays. He'll talk a little bit more about that, but I'm on the current INCOSE Board of Directors for the next 3 years. And I first came in 3 years ago, and Ralph has been the INCOSE president for 2024 and 2025. If you aren't familiar with how this works, he was president-elect for 2022 and 2023. So that's when I had started. So he was working with Marilee Wheaton, who was the current president at the time. So I just wanted you to have an understanding of these leadership roles are quite an undertaking, but it means that he's been part of our board of directors. And this will be his 3rd year, although I know he also had served on the board of directors previously. But what's really key for this is his role is to help the board of directors set goals for INCOSE of where we're going. And what I wanted to point out was I mentioned our previous president, Marilee Wheaton. So Ralph worked with Marilee to hire our current executive director, who you might know is Steve Records. which started INCOSE on, I'll say, a significant journey to hire staff in conjunction with the development of a strategic plan. So I think what has, I guess, been key for me is he has been such a big influence and strong leader throughout this process. And it just makes me excited, I guess, that he's going to be able to speak today, because I feel like I can take some of that information as well as I talk to other chapter leaders. So you can read his bio, but I'll turn it over to Ralph now.
Wonderful. Thank you for the kind words, Renee. And I'm really pleased that I can start my INCOSE year 25 with you, with the Washington Metro area chapter. And before I have the face-to-face opportunity next week to visit our French colleagues at their annual System Engineering Conference in Paris. Now, definitely, I also want to thank and congratulate Gary and the leadership team who went out of their roles today. As Gary emphasized also a couple of times, INCOSE is a volunteer organization. And when we say this, this is really a major discriminator, and I would say a competitive advantage of us as a professional organization versus others who have more, let's say, a business oriented attitude and behavior. There is, of course, a need and place for those too, but the specificity of INCOSE is really the enthusiasm, the excitement, the engagement of the volunteers we have around the world. And this is what makes INCOSE, made INCOSE the last 35 years to what it is today. So really thank you very much for those who supported your chapter specifically in the past, and those who stepped into the new roles for this year and the upcoming years. That's really critical, and we can never thank you and the people who are engaged enough for what you are doing for the organization. Now, for today, my objective is that I want to take 2 viewpoints. Let me just check if that works here. Okay, so you can see the slides?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good job.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I want to talk, as Renee indicated already, we are in a certain transition period, I would say, in a turning point of the organization. A lot of changes are happening. So I want at the beginning to take a little bit of time to re-emphasize who we are today. Then let's say, identifying the major challenges I feel we are facing. And then, as Renee already mentioned as a topic, to introduce to you our new strategic plan, which has been published mid of last year, and especially also what has already been done based on that strategic plan, and what are our specific objectives for the year 2025, because the board is currently already using, since its existence, a strategic plan for orientation continuously. That was a positive surprise for me, how big the role is this plan and this discussion around our strategic objective, how big that is already influencing our behaviors and our thinking. So starting with the first thing, so this is what INCOSE is today. We are, after 35 years of existence, around a global community of 25,000 members. We have also a growing number of 140 corporate members. And what is also very interesting is to emphasize that these 2 figures They are not growing in step functions. However, we do have a continuous growth. And we did also have a continuous growth over the period of COVID. And this is very remarkable. So I think the attraction of us as an organization seems to be, let's say, ever increasing, and we can be very proud about this. Of course, we have members in 70 countries around the globe. We have more than 50 working groups at international level, and more than 60, I think it's around 65 chapters at this point in time worldwide. Now, on the chapters, really, it is important to stress and to emphasize, and especially talking to you as WMA, that you as a chapter, you play a key role for the organization. You are the place where the new members come in first, where they are attracted, where they are kept, where they are welcomed, embraced, introduced to the network of the community, where the transfer of knowledge of what richness of membership services and products we have and benefits we have around the globe, how this can be transferred to a member in the Washington metro area and whatever chapter we have in the world. This is absolutely essential. And also, and this is a critical role, and this is also where things are happening. And I was very pleased to see that with your student chapters. This is where then the local relationships are built up with the local universities, with the students, meaning also these are the members of the future, so that we cannot overemphasize the role the chapters play in INCOSE as an organization. And this is why also, again, it is critical to have those new people now coming in as new leaders. You play a critical role, and you are critical to the engagement of our community. Also, when we talk later on about strategy, it is very nice that the board of directors may have a strategy they are very pleased about and sitting in the ivory tower of their board meetings. The strategy is not worth anything if it is not known by you, if you wouldn't have contributed to the creation of it, and you would not be continuously aligned with the other 65 chapters around the world, let's say with the board and with our working groups in implementing that strategy and making sure that we as an organization reach our ambitions we are having. So, and we do have, I think many of you who are, let's say here also in that meeting know that very well, but just to re-emphasize what a rich set of resources and benefits we have from the body of knowledge and the handbook, over the professional development portal, the tools database, the INCOSE library, mentoring, a rich portfolio of standards we contributed with, and a couple of new things I want also to specifically highlight here. The first one is the System Engineering Laboratory. We were talking about many years about the digital transformation, model-based systems engineering, all those stuffs, while we are still producing PDF documents. Now, with the System Engineering Laboratory, we have a rich set of currently 26 tools donated by the tool vendors and also supported by the tool vendors with respect to some trainings and webinars, available for us as INCOSE members and INCOSE working groups, so that we can do our work using those tools and that we can create digital artifacts and models in the future rather than PDF documents. I think that is a very critical step forward, and I'm personally very pleased on this evolution here. We have a couple of hundred registered users already using this SE Lab, and this is continuously increasing. Next one is also talking about members and their needs. It's also that everybody wants a job and wants an exciting job and a good job. So that means we are emphasizing now much more than in the past a virtual job fair and a career center, so that we can connect people who are seeking job opportunities with the places where enterprises have jobs available. These are only two, let's say, of the more recent elements we are providing. We do a lot of publications. We have the System Engineering Journal from a scientific perspective, the Inside Practitioners Journal, our quarterly newspaper, and then many products in our store, currently more than 55 guides and products. Maybe the flagship of it is, of course, the System Engineering Handbook. And also, I put here some figures that, I mean, to recognize the richness of content and the evolution of the discipline in our journal and our insight, because we have already more than 120 issues currently of those journals and insight magazines available. So this represents up to 1,000 papers, our contributions, and so on. So this is also beyond the guides and handbooks and so on, a very rich repository of the evolution of the wisdom and of our discipline, together also with all the thousands of papers from our various events. The System Engineering Vision is also one of the flagships, which is now existing in its 3rd edition. So it's now the System Engineering Vision 2035. This is what really gives us also a prestige, I would say, and a global recognition, even outside the system engineering community, of being the thought leader for systems engineering. And this is really a very exciting and important product we have, especially also since this last version is changing the focus and sets the ambition at a new level. Because in the past we were talking about system engineering with respect to supporting technical product development life cycles. Here, for the first time, we emphasize strongly the idea and the ambition that system engineering principles and approaches are also key to the solution of major challenges we have on the planet. This is why at the beginning of this document, there's also the reference to the United Nations Sustainability Goals and the recognition of, let's say, many mega trends and many new application domains which are outside of the pure technical area. We do conferences and events at all levels. Here I'm emphasizing the international and regional ones. But as we have seen, also the chapters in the Washington area, you do your local events, you do your tutorials, your webinars, and name it. And this is happening throughout the whole planet. Now, speaking about symposia, of course, there need to be an advertising part here also. The two major ones are the International Workshop and the International Symposium. So the International Workshop really is the event where all the actively engaged people in our working groups, in our chapters are coming together, sharing the progress, making the plans for the new year, and also all the boards and committees and so on coming together. This is the richest event for active members, I would say. And as we heard already earlier, this year, for the very first time, the International Workshop will take place outside the United States. And this will be very soon now, in 3 weeks, starting 1st of February in Seville in Spain. And that is also an indication that we have not only a growth of membership around the globe, but also a growth of active leaders and engaged contributors within INCOSE, so that there is now a reason and the justification for at least trying this time, hopefully successfully, to have this international workshop outside the United States. We are really excited, as a European, of course, myself, that we have this, and this might be a very successful event. The next one is the International Symposium. This is but it's the premium international event and forum each year. This is the major milestone. And this is where we see that here since 1991, this is happening. So this year, we will see the 35th annual INCOSE Symposium. And after Dublin last year, this will take place in Ottawa, in Canada, at the end of July this year. So the call for submission is not valid anymore, but of course, make your plans to be at the symposium and also at the international workshop. And just for the workshop itself, that making travel plans to be in person at the workshop may become now a little bit difficult for you in the shortage of time. However, it is a hybrid event. So that means you can still decide to register virtually and participate to the various working groups, events, and activities at the IW virtually from the Washington metro area without traveling. Make use of that. Okay, so this, I think, is trying to show the proudness and the richness of what INCOSE has achieved over those 35 years and what we are delivering as value to the global community and to our members. So looking into the future, the question is, so what do we do? Just keep going and continuously improve, or something else? And I think we need to re-emphasize some aspects. That is due to what I call my three challenges. The first one I mentioned earlier. The first one, unfortunately, in quotes, we have created on our own. With the Vision 35, we had set an ambition for system engineering and for us as INCOSE at a completely different level. We are not yet ready for this, what we have described there as the SE ambition. So that means it's a big challenge as an organization, let's say, to make up our plans in the future to implement the ambition we have set there. And it's still the same typo I'm seeing here. It's of course the Vision 2035, which I'm mentioning here. The next one is related to the fact that we get more and more pressure from the industrial community. They are asking more and more for guidance and support from INCOSE for them, for their employees, and especially also for their supply chains and for their relationships with their customers, because there is a need for stronger continuity. Currently, we have, even within my own experience, within a single enterprise with multiple sites in different countries, even the internal culture we have and the internal practices with respect to system engineering are already divergent. And if we look to the boundaries of the supply chain and other companies, it's even worse. So we get, especially also from our industrial CAP members, more and more pressure, let's say, to stand up, to ensure stronger standardization and to, let's say, live up as an authority for them to guide them with respect to what are the right standard core principles of application. And the next one is let's say, good news and bad news at the same time. So the good news is that more and more we observe that system engineering doesn't need to be promoted so much as it was in the past. There is more and more people who are embracing it. And without that, we are pushing for that. So this is great. And here we have some examples also of other organizations embracing it. We have an example here where at the United Nations Climate Summit, there was a specific panel discussion organized about system thinking as a key enabler to live up to our, let's say, climate problems. Of course, INCOSE was not involved in that, but the good news is there are people recognizing that. And even on the right side here, that little chart shows from the World Economic Forum the list of the most important skills we need in the future. And in the upper part, there are things like system thinking and technology and AI and so on, which are most critical identified skills. So, I mean, there's a strong recognition and there's a strong growing application of system engineering. However, at the same time, this comes with a downside, because that is somehow happening uncontrolled from us as an authority. So that means we are getting also misinterpretations, we're getting delusions of the disciplines in all directions. And that is something we also need to face together with that demand to execute stronger as an authority for the benefit of industry. That is really something what we need to emphasize in the future. And I have, for that delusion, I have one impressive chart here to illustrate that. So this has been created here by John McAuliffe from our standards committee. This is a collection of probably even not complete collection, but a comprehensive collection of all the relevant system engineering related standards. And you cannot imagine that this is a consistent red line of how our discipline is implemented throughout these standards. We have helped to, let's say, create this inflation. We have contributed to many of those. At the same time, we are not recognized in any of those as a partner or as a major contributor. Although many of those have been done by INCOSE members to 90% or even more. So that is an illustration of what I call a little bit this inflation of standards, of approaches, the delusion of the discipline, where we need to take some steps. Now, as a result of that, we recognize that there is a need for the identification of an INCOSE strategic plan. And of course, we had some strategic plans before, but not that comprehensive and not explicit. So basically, we started 1.5 years ago, I think, or even 2 years ago, in order to face those challenges, to work on a strategy development. And we used 3 major inputs. So first, we did a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, from our international leaders, from chapter presidents, from all the engaged members inside INCOSE. We did a formal member survey in autumn 23, I think it was, where we really asked all of you for inputs, which was then flowing into the strategy generation. And we did a lot of structured interviews also outside of the traditional INCOSE world for creating inputs. There was a journey which started then beginning of 23, when we decided that we needed this essentially to shape our future of INCOSE and the discipline. And after this, we went through a process to have end of 23, what a strategic plan, which we called the version 075. And this was then just 1 year ago, presented in a town hall meeting at the International Workshop in Torrance, 24. And as a result of that, we also conducted on this basis an open review of comments. And we also chartered 2 specific, let's say, complementary and competitive review teams. Interestingly, one of the 2 teams was led by Art Peister, who is here on the call. So all of this went then back into the Strategic Development Committee, and we created the final product, the version 1 of our strategic plan, and this was adopted as the strategic plan at the board meeting in Dublin last summer at Q2. And since then, we are using it. As I said, interestingly, it is really materialized as very helpful and omnipresent in all the discussions we are doing. So it really, in that area, it serves the purpose we had originally envisaged. One element I think we need to emphasize, the strategy development does not mean that we want to put everything upside down. We have two sets of elements and artifacts which we have not touched, which are still omnipresent and driving us as an organization. This is the set of our values, which have been created in 2015, and our principles. So the values here, I'm not reading them, but what we can see here beyond system thinking, of course, and innovation, there is respect, diversity, and collaboration. There is the recognition of individuals as members. That is something which really characterizes also us as an organization. And of course, the volunteerism. That is a major asset we are having. And really, that is something we keep alive, and this has also driven the definition of the strategy, sticking to our values, as well to our principles here, which are also elements of, let's say, that we want to be a partner, a strong partner with other entities and organizations. And also, again, the last point here on the chart, volunteerism. So INCOSE is led up to now by volunteers and will be led in the future by volunteers. Although we will see that we have now also a strong staff organization which supports the volunteers, compensating, of course, the weaknesses which go along with volunteers who have a daytime job and a daytime family, and hopefully then INCOSE comes at number 3 in their priorities. And that is something we need also to compensate, to overcome, to complement, so that strong volunteer leaders in the future will be supported by a strong professional staff team also. We'll come to that later. Okay. As part of that, of course, we started with a new vision. So this is our new vision, and this is also in line with this element of let's say, dilution and proliferation. Our vision is, as an organization, we want to unite and advance the global systems community. And we keep a slogan. A slogan is that we want to have a better world through a systems approach. And you will recognize this was our former vision. And the former vision, that was a good statement. So we still continue to use this, INCOSE, a better world through a systems approach. While our organizational vision is the one I showed before, we have an emphasis on uniting and advancing our global community. And the mission of us as an organization: foster systems engineering, knowledge exchange, application, education, and research. And the second sentence here, this is the very new element, I would say. This is also in response to those challenges, that we want to be the world's trusted authority and forum for practice, science, art of systems engineering. And that was a very intentional and long debate, that we don't want to be an arrogant or just an authority by power. We want to be an authority by the value we deliver, by the positive contributions we do, and by the positive contributions which are recognized in our relationship with other organizations, with our members, our CAP members, and so on. So that means we want to be an authority in the way that people recognize us because they trust us and they have evidence of the positive role we play. Furthermore, then we put it down into 4 strategic objectives. The first one is advancing systems engineering as the world's trusted authority. Here it comes again. That is the new strong element which we are placing here. The second one is new with respect to its emphasis. This is expanding the community while growing INCOSE. And community is not identical to INCOSE. We want to grow INCOSE. We want to have more members to be powerful in our role, but also the systems engineering community are many people applying the principles and recognizing it beyond the traditional, let's say, INCOSE members. Then the third one here, professional development and system engineering competences. This is basically, if we want to make it black and white, the objective to do what we did up to now. So to create all those member benefits and all those products and values, but of course continue to do that even better and more consistent. And I will show later on also an example where we also re-emphasize an aspect in here. And last but not least, this is the key enabler. All of this is all nice to say. If we are not credible in our ambitions in achieving our plans and our milestones and our promises, we need to have a system and an attitude and an operational model that we are excellence from an operational perspective, that we deliver of what we promise, and especially also from the perspective of being volunteers primarily also in the future, having volunteer leaders. We need to ensure that there's an underlying world of, let's say, operational support where we excel. So from a priority perspective, not from an importance perspective, from a priority perspective, we need to build those things here from the right to the left. So we need to do these enablers of operational excellence. Of course, we need to further develop the discipline, the principles, and the benefits for members. Then we are credible in growing and reaching out, and then we are credible to deserve the term to be a trusted authority. Okay, quickly on the various areas. Now, if we say advance the well-trusted authority, this is what we call the strategic objective. This is broken down into 3 dedicated strategies here. The first one is related a little bit like, let's say, we, of course, need to be the thought leader. That is what we do with our system engineering vision, and this is what we do with the consequences of the future of systems engineering, that we have, that we create roadmaps and that we are able to align roadmaps from different organizations, different initiatives inside and outside INCOSE, and to build the right and embrace the right strategic alliances and partnerships for creating that future and being the trusted authority. Now, the second bullet here, that is a very hot potato currently. This is that we say, up to now, we were opportunistic in contributing to every standard which came out in whatever bush around the globe. Now, in the future, we want not only to contribute silently and unrecognized to all those standards, we want to be more explicit. We want to publish our own standards. We want to broker existing standards. We want to more consistently connect the world of standards with ours and the other partners. We want to endorse them. We want to have guides to the standards. and we want to have really stronger collaborations on the standardization side with other standardization bodies and professional societies, but be one of them. Of course, this is not happening next Monday, but this is a major strategic orientation we are currently putting on. The last one here on this is also related to our events. Currently, we have multiple events where we try typically to serve everybody. In the future, we want to have a better enriched and coordinated portfolio of events at international, regional, local event, but also specifically more targeted to various domains, topic areas, and also to be more instantiated or adapted to different competency level. So today at an international symposium, we try to serve the newbie, just the student, the one comes out of university, the expert level people, the senior system engineering managers. We try to please all of them in one event. So I think we need to be more intentional and more intelligent in managing this as a portfolio. Next one is that expansion. The first one, of course, relates that we need to better promote what it is. I mean, we were always speaking about the value of system engineering, but the value of system engineering is also different in different contexts. So we need to better promote the why we do system engineering, what it is, and what is the value, so that we can use this for convincing people. Next one is better targeted alliances, that we can really reach out to a broader community, to different business domains, to non-technical business domains. So we need to have strong partners, our partner organizations, to help us not to be arrogant to go to those communities and preach systems engineering as the solution, but to be a partner, to understand their context and to bring constructive contributions into their contracts. And then, of course, we want to attract individuals and organizations to grow. And we want to do that, of course, in new and different application domains, in all geographical areas around the globe, and at different organizational scales. So the big players in industry, as well as small and medium enterprises and so on. That needs to be scalable. And the last part here, and this is also where I think chapters play a critical role. We are not good enough at this point in time to engage new members. We from day one, in a way that they come and they are excited and they stay and they want to get more. I think that should be the case. I mean, we are the examples of those people who had let's say, a lucky first day probably, and we stayed in the organization and we kept engaged, but we don't make it very easy for the people to do so. So that's really something which is critical to are better in embracing those new members and better in delivering and the values and making those benefits more prominently visible. Then this here is the area where I said this is the continuation of what we do today. However, we need to be more strategic in our publication, in the curation of our principles, concepts, process models, and so on, because just to, let's say, just to talk a little bit to Art Peister here, who is, of course, a key leader in our system engineering body of knowledge. I mean, the body of knowledge, there we put everything on the table of the people and then say, pick what you want. We need to be more strategic in having guidance and targeted packages for various applications domain, better discoverability and understandability of what we are doing and delivering. The next two, of course, continue to establish impactful services for our members, for our individual members. But in addition to that, the last point here has been added. We also want to emphasize in the future organizations, so that we also support the advancement of organizational proficiency versus just the proficiency of individuals through certification and so on. Individuals are part of their organizations. Their organizations also need to recognize system engineering and recognize the value of their members who are systems engineers. So we need to make sure that we have also contributions to organizations, how to set up a system engineering organization, how to embrace system engineering in the organization, how to train, to involve and organize, and all of that. So this is a new major emphasis which had been put here. And last but not least, operational excellence. Now, the first one here is an objective, a statement to say we need to advance a one INCOSE mindset. And one INCOSE means it's not the international organization and or the working groups. And then there are somewhere else the chapters and the activities they are doing. We are still with the ambitions we are let's say putting here on the table. Compared to that, we are still a small and not so powerful organization. So that, but we do have, of course, with the 22,000 members and the 65 chapters around the globe, there is the potential. So we need to start to better communicate, to have according to that strategy, a mindset of joining forces across chapters, across countries, across business domains. So towards governance at all countries also, so that we can really execute this trusted authority. For that, we need all of you, all the chapters and everybody, all the institutions we have to join forces. And this is a major topic. And of course, from an operational perspective, we want also to make sure that this is more globally also supported by our operational system, so that there are better synergies across the globe and all the chapters and all the activities, not to reinvent the wheel of administration and operation, which is not the value-adding part of us and as leaders. We need more and more to emphasize really the technical leadership rather than being excellent in, let's say, in the administration of our organization. For that, we need also to re-architect the organization. There need to be a reorganization, re-architect some of the organizational elements. I come to this later. And then to support the chapter specifically, really we need frameworks, infrastructure to much more efficiently support you as chapters and support the operations of working groups. There are already some immediate activities going on in that. So René Steinwald is working with our staff members in creating, let's say, better means to support the chapters, creating leadership training, chapter leadership training packages, and all of these kind of things. So this are the tactics and activities which are already going on, let's say, under this umbrella. And of course, all of that nowadays globally needs a lot of IT, communication, marketing. So those shared services, as we may call them, they need to be implemented in a more efficient way, in a more sustainable way throughout the organization. Okay, now this was the strategy from general perspective. These are the evergreen strategic objectives for the upcoming 5 to 10 years. They are probably not changing. What is changing is the level of detail, how they are instantiated, and they will be instantiated into a level of tactics. And the tactics are those priorities and activities which are also then put into an annual operating plan. So here's the list of tactics which the board has just recently also agreed on and has been used by the board to set up the annual operating plan and the budget for the year 2025. And I quickly go through here. So of course, we need to establish that 5-year roadmap for the future of system engineering. This is the necessary element in response to the vision and response to the authority ambition. The next few ones are then really critical elements. And those who come to the IW will see that also the strategy discussion there will go around this. We want to play a stronger role in education and training in the overall ecosystem to ensure that we can execute this authority and can support this through an existing good set of training. Now, the objective for this year here is determining our role in this. So do we want to be a training provider? Do we want to be a broker of training providers? A mixture of both. I mean, that is a major topic which we have started to already to address at the end of the month at the IW strategy session, as well as in the board meetings. Next one, then, of course, indicated that earlier. What will be our position in standards development? How do we articulate that mixture probably between brokering and publishing of standards and contributing and partnering? We need to have a new portfolio of events, product services, and alliances. That is something which more intentional and not opportunity-based and opportunistic as we did it in the past. We are not understanding rightly what are the real needs of our members. We all have experience as leaders with the organization, and we have beliefs of what we believe we need and the people we know might need. But we have no clue what the 22,000 members really need from us. And that is something which we need to analyze much better as a basis for decision-making into the future. Then member engagement programs, new member onboarding, community platforms, all these kind of things need to be established stronger, and that will be a priority. At the level of outreach, also, we were a bit chaotic in the past because outreach was bottom-up and opportunistic into new organizations and collaborations. Now we want really to set up what are the top 5 priorities with respect to outreach and future collaborations. One example we emphasized the membership in the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. We are now an international member of this, or WFEO. WFEO is supported by UNESCO, has a high visibility globally, and they organized the World Engineering Day in March. We want to be part of that. We want to get the level of visibility and inclusion and recognition of hundreds of engineering organizations around the globe. And we need a couple of more of those so that we can here really emphasize our time and money engagement into those critical strategic relationships. Next one is that the INCOSE material. Our materials is made by systems engineer in the best case for systems engineer. our language and our material does not speak to non-system engineers. It does not speak to non-engineers. It does not speak to the society at large, to policymakers, to executives, even in engineering organizations. We need to have a better material and a better language that we can go out and be credible as the world authority and not only talk among us, let's say. Then we come into a couple of things related to the operational excellence. We need to solidify and make them more robust with respect, let's say, our IT systems. This is still a weak area we have. We need to better develop INCOSE leaders, support INCOSE leaders, include INCOSE leaders, have also then volunteer leader training material available so that we can be more efficient in the way of collaboration. We need to have a roadmap for publications. So how will that look in the future? Will we self-publish as an example, or will we go with publishers like Wiley? That is a major decision to be taken. So that roadmaps need to be taken and established. And the last one here is we need to advance our organization. So the evolution of the board of directors is already going on. Evolution of TechOps is at the beginning. We integrated Fuse as an example. Academic matters has changed currently. So there's a new academic council with a new way of operations and principles in place. All of that is also going on. So, and then I think 2 words on organization, and then I will stop also giving some opportunities for discussions. This is the INCOSE organization as it is today. So what you see here, we have on the left side the sectors. We have the second column, the executive council. We have DEI, nomination elections, honors and awards, all those various board committees. On the advisory side, we have the corporate advisory board and the academic council, and what I call the value creation area, technical operations, services, events, strategy and portfolio, and academic matters. And on the right side, what we call here headquarters. This is the new staff organization. René mentioned that earlier. We have now nearly since 2 years an executive director in place. And since the beginning of last year, already we have this staff organization. So we insourced all the former contractors which were distributed in support of all those boxes here, not coordinated with each other. This has all been insourced and extended so that we have now a very strong staff organization as a starting point to live up to our operational excellence ambitions. Now, what you see here is on those stars, the leaders of those organizational entities are the voting board members. So our sector directors, corporate advisory board, tech ops, and so on, they are members of the board of directors. On the right side here, the 2 stars, this is the director for strategy and 1 for outreach. And on the left side, these are the 4 officers, president, president-elect, and so on. So we have, this is the set of today's 13 voting board members. And what you can really immediately appreciate is that they have double roles. They have the operational role to lead a sector, to lead technical operations, at the same time when being a strategic board member for the future. And that is not sustainable with the strategic ambition we are having. This is why we are pushing forward. And I go over those which we currently have here. In the future, we will have a board of 13 voting board members as today. However, they will not have an operational responsibility like TechOps or sector. There will be strategic board members only. So we will have then 10 elected and 3 appointed board members. The executive director as a non-voting member. And then this will look like this. So we will have an organization where the people leading those operational entities like tech ops and sectors will, as volunteer leaders, these are all volunteer leaders. They will be, let's say, their burden will be reduced by having only that operational focus and not being a board member at the same time anymore. While we will have 13 board-only members at the strategic level, also with a significant lower time commitment, which will allow us also to reach into a different community of volunteers being board members in the future. And then we need, let's say, also a few extensions to that. There is the intent to have an external advisory committee of CTOs, for example. And of course, also what you see here at the center, there's a box called Chapter Advisory. We are starting to discuss this year a way, and also with you together. So how can we better embrace the chapters in information flow and in the decision-making process? So it should not be such that the board in their wisdom makes that strategy and those decisions and flows it down to you, let's say in WMA for execution. That's not the way it works. There needs to be a better collaboration in the future of, let's say, converging on common positions and understandings and working together on the implementation of it. Okay, so I stop here. This is what's currently going on. That transition of the board and the organization itself will be incremental over the upcoming year. You will see first elements already in the election ballot end of this year or mid of this year. And around 28, 29, that transition will be completed as the current job holders, when their turn ends, the next job holder will not have that double role of being, let's say, a technical operations director as well as a board member. So that's what I wanted to tell you. I hope that was interesting and was clear enough. And I'm happy to get also questions, of course, and comments.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation and sharing what's happening a level or so above us. So thank you so much again for sharing all of that. We do have some questions in the chat. Steve Dam, did you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Sure, Ralph. So having been a sector leader and on the board, you know, I'm not sure I understand how that is not going to be a board member, because that you still want that perspective of someone kind of watching over the chapters. The problem I know I had at the time was our infrastructure, or IT infrastructure, was so bad that getting information was almost impossible. Kind of fixed, I believe. So what is it that's going to happen that's different there?
So if we take that example, so Renee as a sector director for the Americas will, and the future job holders of that will continue to have that responsibility as they have it today. So what you see from her will be the same what you see from her in the future. She is taking care about the orchestration, coordination of the chapters, helping them, relaying information back and forth. But she will then, in that role, will not be a voting board member in the future and not sitting on the board meetings. There will be an additional set of volunteers being on that board. And we recognized, of course, that, and thank you for that question.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't quite get that, because to me, that's the person who has perspective on what's happening in all the chapters, and that's in the sector. Why they're not a voting board member?
Because there will be still listened. because we want, let's say, I'll turn it the other way around. So first of all, the overall principle is that we want the board, which is already the case today somehow, we want the board to act purely strategic and outreach oriented, relationship oriented, and so on. This means that also we want to have people who can emphasize that. So that means today, if we are looking for board members on a ballot, we are asking them not to become a board member. We are asking them to become a sector director or to become a technical operations director or services. And technical operations, we are asking them to do a 50% time commitment for taking that role. And this is more and more difficult. So by separating that, we can reduce basically, let's take ops as an example, that 50% by 10% not having the board role anymore, and another 10% by having staff support for many of the operational aspects. So we are looking in the future for a 30% time commitment for those kind of leaders, while we are looking for board members which are maybe also coming from a different background, occasionally in organizations, whom we ask a 5% time commitment being on the strategic board.
Yeah, I guess I worry that you're going to disconnect
the
board
and
from the chapters.
Yes, and that is a very good point. I definitely agree. What we want to do there, and this is not only true, I mean, that comes with it. I agree with that, that risk. And that also comes with it from a working group perspective and from the other areas where people will not be board members anymore. And what we are doing is that we are already starting right now, that there are two aspects. Each board member is intended to be a liaison to one of those entities. So participating as a board member to the management meetings of those tech ops or sectors and so on. So to be more knowledgeable as one single person. And secondly, we are creating a quarterly operational exchange meeting in front of board meetings. So that means that at this point in time, we will have all sectors, technical ops, services, CAP, everybody presenting the status of their activities, their challenges, and so on. And that will be in the presence of all those leaders and all board members. So that event, that will be held a month or so before a board meeting. So that means that event will ensure, let's say, operational exchange and awareness between the board and the committees, as well as transverse to the various committees, which we are also lacking today. So that's
my first impression of that is it's highly duplicative and not exactly what we call streamlined.
Okay.
It's going to cause some serious issues. So that's my impression.
Okay.
I mean, believe me, I really believe the staff is very important to help offset the load and time, particularly on the members. I mean, I tried very hard as director of the Americas to do that and run a company and do contract work and do many other things. And so I get it. I know the problem well, but still there has to be a coupling between the chapters and the overall sectors and the board, or I mean a tight coupling, not a loose coupling. And it sounds like that's coupling. So I'll just give that feedback. I mean, obviously, you try this for a while, but you may go back and realize that that wasn't going to work.
I think if I can just step in just for a second, Steve, I understand and I appreciate your view on this, because I will tell you, I do feel that as sector director, I do focus a lot on operations, right? of INCOSE, and are we serving our chapter members best, and things like that. So, I mean, that stays as far as the sector director being involved and trying to understand that, and trying to, I would say in this case, help the board of directors understand that as well, because it is very important, especially what I have come to learn too, is with the other sectors as well, the other sector directors. So, I have had discussions with Ralph, because I understand that I will no longer be a voting member in the future, but I still feel that I can have an impact, I guess is the way I feel. So, but like I said, I do
And-
really appreciate what you're saying, Steve.
I think it's worth
And
trying.
if I made two parts, Steve, quickly to what Renee said. So it will not impact Renee as a person. So she is currently re-elected and she will stay on the board as a voting
Right.
board member until the end of her term. Her
Right.
successor will be then the first one, let's say, having this separation. And
Yeah.
secondly, we definitely appreciate that what you are saying. I mean, we have that awareness. We recognize this as a problem to, let's say, and the difficulty and the risk to be solved. And we are trying to take that serious. So you are completely right.
And absolutely, Ralph, and you got to
Yeah.
try these things and see what works, but just be aware if it doesn't work, just be open to that. Hey, we need to reassess this.
Mhm.
I think as the board, as again thinking more strategically, which would be fantastic, by the way, because that was one of the problems we had. We're so mired in the operational side of things that we couldn't begin to think strategically. And so I totally get it, and I understand the reason why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, but I will warn you, it could have a negative impact too. So and you maybe already aware of that and already thought that through, but I just wanted to say that because
very good point. Like very clearly recognized already, and yeah,
good.
And we appreciate further discussion with you and others on this, of course.
Yeah, I'll be at the IW. We can chat quite a bit over a beer.
Good. Or wine or vermouth.
I'm out. So, thank you guys.
Gary, you also had a question?
Yes. Earlier you spoke about the need for standards and getting in that, creating those alliances with other organizations. Where does that fit in the new org structure? I was looking for a box that said standards or something like that, but I didn't know, maybe it's buried in one of those other boxes.
You would see that box once we were clear on what we want in the area of standards. So what we currently do is we have the standards department in technical operations. This is where we continue at this stage, first to be involved in what we are currently doing, and secondly, where there is also the kernel of the planning. So what are the pros and cons and the opportunities of publishing versus contributing versus brokering? So that plan will be developed there. And then once we may decide clearly a strategic orientation that we publish standards, then definitely that will be probably even in the staff organization, an organizational entity, because then this is the orchestration of all the balloting and whatever comes with being a standards publishing organization.
Okay.
But that we are not yet there. So the stronger role in standard is a strategic objective. The way how to do that and how we balance the different models, that is the objective for this year as a tactic to develop that plan.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And Ralph, historically, many of us have participated in standards development in many of these other organizations. So it'll be very interesting to see how that fits together. And just talking to AIAA
Mm-hmm.
about this. I'm on the Systems Engineering Technical Committee, and they have a
Mm-hmm.
couple standards that actually develop and use. And of course, they are a standards body.
Yep.
So might be some real opportunities there. So we can talk
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yep. Same is true on the OMG side. We're already in contact that next standards may be also, let's say, co-authored by INCOSE and OMG and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But this is a complex ecosystem, the standardization world, and there's not one single solution to that. So we will have
No.
a balanced engagement in the future, and
in fact,
that needs to be defined.
Often today's standards are actually holdovers from yesterday's technologies.
Mhm.
And one of the problems I think we run into, particularly in that area, is we are often looking at 1990s technologies standards and trying to apply them in the 21st century. And
Also,
they're not
we
working.
need to be, yeah, for that element of being the authority and the leader, we also need to be much faster in delivering those things.
Yeah, and we're not. And
Yeah, we're not.
I'd like to have a conversation with you about how to deliver digital standards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, I don't see any more questions in the chat. This has been a great presentation, as I've mentioned before. Thank you so much for taking the time out, Ralph, to join us. And we're going to move on next to our last. Are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, there we are. And so in terms of the way ahead for the WMA chapter, here are a few things that we're working on now as we get started in our new year. We're going to complete the training for the new INCOSE WMA chapter officers. That will be led by our Director at Large, Dr. Sue. We, as a board, will collaborate and complete the strategic plan for 2025. And we will also take a look back and document and discuss the lessons that we've learned from the year we've just had. And then we will continue to engage with our student chapters. Gary, our past president, has, as I mentioned before, done a tremendous job in engaging with the 3 universities in Virginia. And we're looking to expand our student chapter engagement since we are the Washington metropolitan area chapter. We're also going to connect with universities in DC and Maryland as well, such as Howard University, Morgan State University, which has a phenomenal engineering program, and the University of Maryland. I will be leading that effort. And then lastly, we are planning to establish a working group to participate in the 2025 GMU Andre Sage Systems Engineering Research Competition. That is a mouthful. And so we have worked with them in the past. Gary was there as a judge in 2024. And so we're planning to stand up a working group and looking for a leader for that effort. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, February 12th. But between now and then, there is the workshop that we have been talking about, the IW in Seville, Spain. So for those that are planning to go, safe travels. For those that will be joining online, we'll see you online. And so I hope that all of you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will chat with you in the coming days in 2025. Have a good evening.